Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network and another episode of Sibling Showdown, the Best Ball Edition. And that's right, this is our second Best Ball show of the season, and we are talking rookies. We are talking rookies pre-draft, and we will do it again after the draft, after they have landing spots, so that we know how to handle these rookies in the big board drafts on Underdog right now. So I'm, of course, joined by my sibling, my brother, Steve. Steve, how are you feeling with these big board drafts and these running back rookies?
Well, I'm enjoying the big board drafts. The running back rookies is definitely the toughest situation for two reasons. Why running back is definitely the position that is most dependent on opportunity, more so than talent, and that's just around the league. And so landing spot is so key here. So without knowing the landing spot, it's tough to get a good, accurate ranking of where these guys go, not just amongst the rookies, but where they fit in amongst even veterans as well. And the other part of it is, unlike, say, last year where we knew Bijan was a clear-cut, first-round pick, and Jahmyr Gibbs was probably a first-round pick, and he ended up with a really great landing spot. But we felt pretty confident those two guys would be really good. The year before, felt really confident that, at any point, Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker were really good picks. Kind of didn't matter where they landed. This year we don't necessarily have that. So there's not right now one rookie running back that's like standing out as a must take. So it's a bit of a jumbled mess right now. But I think you can take some shots and hope you get, if you're doing multiple drafts, take some, mix it up, take some shots, get some varied exposure. The right guy hits as the top rookie running back. I mean, some of these rookie running backs are just naturally going to hit, whether their opportunity is clear cut from day one or due to injury. Some of these backs are definitely going to hit.
Yeah, no, and I was going to ask you, about like the kind of the landscape for the running backs this year, and you kind of hit on it. You kind of hit on my second question, actually, is how to handle these rookie running backs in best ball this early. Like, we're going to know a lot more in March with free agency, and then of course at the end of April with the draft after they hit their landing spots, and then when the Best Ball Mania and all the other best ball contest launches, with that information, we'll feel a lot more comfortable. So that's kind of how you're handling it in the landscape of best ball right now is there is, real uncertainty for these running backs, basically. And you probably only feel comfortable drafting them if you have have a very kind of a stable of others, very solid running backs ahead. Does that kind of summarize it?
Yeah. It's really tough right now to do like 0 RB builds with these types of backs, just because their value is so varied. Like if you're taking a 0 RB back with, say, a Khalil Herbert or a Jaleel McLaughlin or somebody like that, clearly these guys are not elite running backs, and those are 0 RB type backs. At least you have some idea of what they can be. Mm-hmm. These backs, they could be studs or they could not see the field. I mean, we saw that with even relatively highly drafted running backs
like
last
Chase
year,
Brown and
Tank Bigsby, right? Guys like that who, sometimes it takes a year or two for these backs to get an opportunity. So.
Right. And generally speaking about like the landscape, before we get in individually, the landscape of this running back class isn't as good as we've seen in the past, right? Would you kind of rank this as just like, generally speaking, a weaker class?
Yeah, it's definitely weaker in the sense that there's no clear cut like elite backs or even clear star backs.
Mm-hmm.
The best back is Jonathan Brooks, who tore his ACL in November. So we just don't have a clear medical on when he'll be back. So especially drafting right now, maybe when we get to the summer and we have a much better idea of what landing spot he's at and, when he might be returning to the field, then we can more accurately, have a good, at least a general projection for him. But right now it's, I'm not saying don't take him, but you're taking a risk that he could be on IR for the majority of the year. And, similar to Jameson Williams, his rookie year, where that was just a redshirt year for him. Like he got in a couple games late in the year and played very sparingly in those games.
Right. And we'll get individually, but like, again, generally speaking, outside of Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, he was like the only kind of potential star. Right. I mean, there's some other guys who could be good. And, when we see that, like Brian Robinson for Washington.
Mhm.
He was a late third round pick for them. He showed he was a good back last year.
Mhm.
Nowhere near the class of a Brees Hall or a Kenneth Walker,
Right.
but a good,
Right.
good starting back, good fantasy back. With the opportunity. So yeah, some of these guys can fit that bill for sure. So, but it's
Gotcha.
just tougher to know if they're going to get that opportunity.
Okay, well, we're going to pull over Underdog, but before we do, let me let you know that, of course, if you use code FANSPEAK on Underdog Fantasy, where, of course, we love doing our best ball drafts so much, you get 100% deposit bonus up to $100. So if you're new to Underdog, and first of all, I recommend you definitely joining and use code FANSPEAK, get a free $100, deposit 100, get 100, and you'll have plenty to draft away with this spring and summer. So, of course, I am bringing over the big board rankings because that's the current draft that's going on. These are the rankings for that. And we're just going to hit, there appears to be about 11 or so, give or take, running backs, maybe 12 that you find kind of draftable. Even though right now none of them are really standing out to you. There's 11 there draftable. So we're going to hit them one by one and you give us kind of too high, too low. Are you in or out right now? And first one is Jonathan Brooks at ADP of 129. That seems a little high based on what you just said, a potentially redshirt year. Again, we don't know yet. Waiting on a lot of information on him, not just the landing spot. So kind of, I assume from what you just said about Brooks, you're kind of staying away for right now.
Yeah, for right now, we might, the good news is with even a tournament like this, we might get some better news at the combine, and maybe that could give us at least a little hope.
Yeah.
So I might wait until then, and this tournament, won't be filled by then. So,
Right.
so I'm probably waiting a little bit on Brooks. Just I'd rather take somebody who I know is going to, be healthy all year, and even if there is a second back, even if they're getting me, a lot of weeks of, floor points, that's better than Brooks sitting on the sidelines all year. So
yeah, well, right under him is Blake Corum, ADP of 134. So just a quick background. We'll just kind of quick hitter through these. Quick background. And is he too high, too low? And are you in on him during the big board?
Yeah, I mean, Corum obviously coming Michigan national championship season.
Yeah.
Shared work at Michigan, but stud can be a very good back on the smaller side. So I do think some more so than others, his where he lands is going to be very important. But at the very least, he should be a number 2 back. I think this is a little high on him. I like some of the next couple of rookies probably a little bit better. So I feel like you're getting a discount on them. But I do already have some Corum just because if the landing spot's right, he could be a valuable fantasy asset.
Okay. And then right under Corum, they're kind of lumped together. A few of them here is Trey Benson at ADP 138. So give me a little background there, and too high, too low, and where are you standing?
Yeah, Benson is a guy I really like.
Okay.
210 pounds, a good size, 6 foot. Last 2 years at Florida State, and he split some work there. But strong touchdown machine there, good runner. I just really think he could at least get some goal line work. Give yourself some decent fantasy weeks there, even if he's splitting time. So I like him. I think he actually reminds me a lot of like a Brian Robinson type.
Okay.
So yeah, I like him and at this spot.
Well, and especially on Underdog, the type of kind of archetype of back that you're looking for is that like nose for the end zone and goal line type, getting carries around the goal line. So if he gets that kind of role on a team, I mean, sign me up. So
yeah.
Okay, so you think he is a good value there, and you like grabbing some shares of Benson?
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned before, he's going in the same range as guys like Khalil Herbert, Julian McLaughlin, Kendre Miller. Some of those guys might have a little bit more defined roles right now, but Benson definitely probably has a higher upside than all of them right now. So
Okay.
I'll take that, and especially with his touchdown upside.
Sure. Okay. Next under Benson is Bucky Irving, ADP 150. Actually, we got 3 in a row. So first talk about Bucky Irving.
Yeah, so Bucky Irving, Oregon back, definitely, has some power, but speed can catch the ball a little bit. Could be a kind of complete back. I'm going to be interested to see how NFL teams evaluate him. Like I said, right now with the way this back group is, we kind of don't have a clear understanding of the pecking order. But he's a guy I'm definitely interested in. I worry about his touchdown profile, but if he goes to a situation where he does get a number of catches, he's not going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. But where I'm saying is he gets 40 catches to go along with his rushing, decent number of touchdowns. He could be fine, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's more splitting work early in his career.
Okay. And then we got, like I said, 3 in a row. Next is Braylon Allen at pick 154, ADP of 154.
Yeah, Braylon Allen here, another bigger back, Wisconsin. Ended up splitting some work down the stretch in his Wisconsin career due to injury, but can be very physical. Another guy who could be a touchdown machine, really rack up the touchdowns, especially if he goes to a team that say doesn't have that kind of back already in the fold. I think in this range, again, we're talking, a lot of other teams number 2 back. So I don't think the opportunity cost is that ridiculous.
Right.
So I don't mind taking a shot. And especially, again, I envision you already probably have 3 pretty decent established backs by the time you're getting a guy like this. So if he's your 4th back, I have no problem with that kind of situation.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Like you said, if he's, you're running RB4 that you've drafted. So, okay. And next up is Audric S. You said Estime. Okay. Yeah. ADP of, I'm still learning these prospects too. ADP of 158. Give us a little background there.
Yeah. Super similar to Braylon Allen, big physical back, Notre Dame. Last 2 years, especially this last year when he fully took over the running back role, just a power touchdown machine, good balance. Again, probably not going to be catching a ton of balls, not going to be an overall total back, but in underdog scoring, where yardage and touchdowns are the number 1 and number 2 keys here. If he goes to a situation where he could get the goal line work, which if you're a team and you see him, he should be getting the goal line work. He's
okay.
He's a big physical back.
Who's he built like? Like, give me a NFL comp that he's built like.
He's like 6'1", 6'2", 220. I mean, he's just a hammer. Not as big as like a Jerome Bettis type, but
right.
I'm trying to think like a Jacobs,
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. It's fun to hear some of those NFL comps, but I'll tell you what, like just hearing you talk about these last few, honestly, or these backs that are kind of like these bigger backs kind of built for that goal line role, touchdown machine. I mean, I play way more on Underdog than DraftKings. So quite honestly, I am just touchdown hunting. So I don't mind taking shots on these, while this isn't like a super strong rookie running back class, I don't mind taking shots on these guys now that we're really breaking it down, like you said, as RB4, 5, so that makes sense.
And I think as long as you're drafting them in that capacity,
right,
it's fine because some of it is you might only get a couple usable weeks if, in that when it's like when they get a touchdown, they're going to be usable.
Right. Was that kind of how didn't Algier kind of play that a couple of years ago? Was it his rookie year that he had a decent amount of touchdowns?
He ended up with a decent number of yards because Cordell Patterson got injured, so he had 1,000 yards.
And that was the year before Bijan, right? Yeah. Okay, that's right. Okay, so that was, and then Marshon Lloyd is next up at pick ADP of 170. So break Lloyd down.
Yeah, Lloyd's an interesting one. He transferred from South Carolina to USC this past year, kind of split the backfield role. Explosive back. He's the opposite of what we've just been talking about. He's not the hammer. He's the lightning. Not the thunder. He's the lightning here.
Right.
So he's fast, but never had like a full role, and never, and some of it is, how he's utilized in college, but not like a full passing role. So it's not like he went out there and was catching 50 balls or anything like that, like a Gibbs did in college. So I think there's a lot of projection here. I actually think this is kind of high. I think you'd need a really good landing spot. I'd need to know that he's having the passing role. I'd need to know that he's going to get a lot of 200 carries, because he just didn't do that in college. He never. He might have had like 250 carries combined in his college career. Like he never had a full-time role. So, I would worry about this. This is one of the ones where I'm probably out on, just given that.
Okay, gotcha. And then next up is Ray Davis, ADP 185.
Yeah, Ray Davis, Kentucky. I think he, had a really good year in the SEC. Really showed well in that offense. Again, I am a little worried about this area. I would probably take him a little lower because I think there's a little gap. I don't know if he's going to be the touchdown guy. So that worries me slightly. If this is how he ends up being drafted, if he's like the 7th running back taken, roughly we're on the 7th running back, if he's around that being taken, then I'd be okay with this. But I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up more like the 10th or 11th running back taken. So I feel like there you're running the risk that you're getting a weaker landing spot.
Gotcha.
So, part of the other thing with a lot of the running backs we talked about earlier, almost doesn't matter the order that they're taken, whether Estime goes ahead of Braylon Allen or not, they're both going to be taken roughly the same area, and both should have, a similar shot at a role. Ray Davis could be taken 2 rounds later than this type of situation.
Gotcha. Okay. Just a few more. We have Jaylen Wright into the 200s at ADP of 209.
Jaylen Wright's an interesting one because he is extremely explosive. Tennessee running back. We'll see with the combine coming up, but he might be the quickest, fastest running back in this group. Unfortunately didn't get a big chance to be a pass catcher in college, and didn't have a major touchdown role. But boy, there is a lot of explosiveness to his game. And here, this is what, 40 spots after Marshon Lloyd or something like that.
Right.
50 spots after that. So I think you're getting a similar type of back, 5 rounds later, 4 rounds later. So I'm okay kind of taking that shot more here than where Lloyd was.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, this is going in, the last few rounds. So
yeah.
That makes sense. And then next is Will Shipley.
Yeah, Will Shipley. He's a guy, again, we'll have to see how he tests at the combine. He's kind of just your above average size back, 5, he's listed like 5'11", 200, 205. So he can run in between tackles. He can, do a little of everything. What I like about him is he actually did a little of everything. He caught the ball. He would return kicks at Clemson. So we know he has those skills. He was, for his first 2 years in college, very prolific touchdown maker. This past year, they brought in a bigger back and also did a lot more tush pushes at Clemson. That became part of their offense. So anytime the ball was on the one, it ended up being a quarterback touchdown. So some got stolen, but he's shown the ability to kind of handle the full role. A lot will depend on if he goes drafted. It's kind of similar to what we again talked about with Ray Davis. Is he going to be the 7th or 8th running back taken, or is he going to be the 12th running back taken? That's going to depend on kind of where we should be valuing him, I think. So, and if it's a good landing spot, obviously, if he goes, if he's the 7th running back taken, but he's going to be the 3rd on the depth chart, that's not great. So we'll have to see, but that will be interesting for sure.
Okay, and I mean,
I roughly like him at this ADP,
right? I was going to say,
I think there's enough upside there, especially if he gets any sort of opportunity, and maybe it's due to an injury, maybe it's due to just simply outplays the guy. we know he can catch the ball. We know he can do a little bit of everything. So that is promising.
Okay. And the last one we were going to really talk about, and then there's a couple other rookie running backs under him, is Frank Gore Jr. So tell us about the
yeah.
Gore.
Yeah. Obviously son of Frank Gore, played at Southern Mississippi. So much smaller college than Frank Gore, playing at the U at Miami, but he dominated there. He was kind of split his first 2 years, and then was full star these last 2 years, and really productive there. Obviously, lower conference, didn't play as many elite programs, but he showed some decent ability to catch the ball. Like Frank Gore. Frank Gore is not the biggest back, so he's smaller. Probably not going to be a massive goal line guy, but I think he can be a good running back if given an opportunity, and if it all breaks for him. I don't mind taking a late round shot here. I mean, just the pedigree, guy who's going to know what it takes to work to succeed in this league. And again, look at what he's being drafted around is, some of these backs might not even be making rosters. So,
right.
Much less have a role. So I think Frank Gore is going to be draftable. He's going to be somewhere in that late 3rd to 5th round range. And if you get lucky, and
in the real draft, and then
in the real NFL draft, so if you get lucky and it's on the higher side of that, you could get some really good value here.
Right. Does it make you feel super old that some of the stars that we watched growing up are now we're drafting their kids in best ball? Because Brennan Rice, I believe, is wide receiver that we can draft here in best ball, and we'll talk about him in the receiver show. Obviously, he's son of Jerry Rice.
Yep. Yeah.
It makes me feel a little bit old. And then underneath Frank Gore Jr. is Dylan. How do you pronounce that? Lob?
Yeah. I think I'm actually not sure how it's pronounced.
We don't want to butcher it. So Dylan Lob, I'll say, but and then Dylan Johnson, of course, out of Washington, watched him in the playoffs. But talk about those. Are you of any interest in those two, or does it kind of cut off at Frank Gore Jr. for you?
So it kind of cuts off at Frank Gore Jr. I think the next couple guys, Dylan Labe, who's kind of, I don't know if he's.
Oh, and then Cody Schrader.
He could be, I think he could be a little interesting, probably more like a pass catching guy, more than anything else. But that's probably where he's capped out. Dylan Johnson had a great breakout year with Washington, did get injured, so we'll have to see what his status is. And Cody Schrader, another guy, had a kind of breakout year with Missouri. Really liked him. I know there's some question about how he'll test at the combine. So I think we'll have to see, but that could elevate his draft stock. If you need one more running back and you're in the 20th round, last round, take a shot on him, hope you get lucky and he ends up, doing a little bit better and gets drafted higher or finds the right situation. I don't mind it. He succeeded very well in the SEC this year. There's some risk with these guys because they might be 6th, 7th rounders. And sure, sometimes those guys, Elijah Mitchell as a rookie outplayed 3rd rounder Trey Sermon, and was a fantasy asset. But, that's obviously not always the case.
Right. Now, at this point of the year, we're trying to read the tea leaves, obviously, without knowing their landing spots. But of the guys you mentioned, which we talked about, like 11 or so running backs, pretty, breaking down one by one, which do any of them outside of Jonathan Brooks have a chance to be like an all-around back, or none would really be drafted as like you said, because it's just their draft capital, then none of them are going to be drafted as like a true workhorse, right? Am I understanding that?
I think that can be dependent on where, if there's a landing spot of a team that just doesn't feel they like their back, and if they take a Trey Benson, they might see that he's a workhorse. They might see that a Braylon Allen or a Bucky Irving can be a full back in getting 250 carries, and sure, like a guy like Irving will probably get a few more catches than Benson or something like that. But yeah, I mean those types of backs could be second, third round in the NFL draft. And if that team just doesn't have much else out there, they might be willing to give that guy a bigger workload.
Yeah. And then last question, like you talked about some of the kind of the Thunder guys that, and summarize the kind of the touchdown hunters again for me, which were like
I think
3 or 4.
Yeah, I think the big ones are Benson, Benson, Braylon Allen, and Estime are
Okay.
the ones that I'd put in that category.
Okay, because those would be ones that I'd want to target on Underdog. Last year we saw, Devon Achane and how explosive he is. You mentioned some guys being potentially explosive. Any guys you see like that reading the tea leaves, they could absolutely blow up at the combine, and then, during draft season, that's when we started hearing about Achane. Like, is there anybody like that? Maybe not at his level that you really see like, oh, wow, he could really shoot up both NFL draft boards and big board draft boards because of his explosiveness. Because obviously speed is what, the NFL is looking for now.
Yeah, I think if anyone, it'd probably be Jaylen Wright.
Okay. So that's the one you said, like, you'd rather take Wright over a Marshon Lloyd and get that value later. So he's one that could go up later based on his speed and explosiveness.
Yeah.
I think it's important to talk about things like this, both what would be a good fit for Underdog, who could move up based on kind of just testing and that kind of stuff that NFL teams like, which then will trickle down to fans and best ball drafters liking. So I think that's important. But I think we covered it really well. Steve's going to be doing a rookie article series here soon on FanSpeak. All the articles are free. Check them out. I'll be doing a strategy series. Steve will be doing this rookie series, basically, that you can just go to and print and see here. So check out all our articles on fanspeak.com coming very soon. And then ramping up, we'll have tons of best ball articles weekly on fanspeak.com. Steve, any final thoughts on this running back class before we get out of here?
Yeah, just the final thing is, with these running backs, again, and this goes with some of the veteran situations, is remember, a lot of these things are not set in stone. Just because a running back was taken, say, Kendra Miller, for example, mid-round pick, a lot of people were high on him best ball last year. Obviously, Kamara came back, really took that role, but Saints could, draft another running back this year. I mean, we've seen that with like the 49ers. We've seen that with a lot of teams where these mid-round running backs from a year ago, people think are going to invest in them early the next year. And then lo and behold, they're drafting a new running back who might overtake them, especially in the case of, like, say, a regime change. So just keep that in mind as you're, drafting these players and teams, where they are, because, for instance, a good example is Tajay Spears is right now RB18, I think, under the premise that Derrick Henry's played his last game in Tennessee. Who knows with Callahan? That might not be the case anymore. They might still believe in him, with the new coach and wanting to run the football and all that. So what to see, but just keep that in mind. And that's why taking some shots at some of these rookies now, since none are you're taking a big risk on, I think it's fine. Outside the Brooks thing and that injury, I'm not too worried about many of these other ones. And as long as you're just not having a running back room of like 3 or 4 rookies, you should be pretty good.
Yeah, like you said, if it's your RB4 or 5 or something like that, I think that's.
Yeah, I don't mind taking 2 of these guys.
Yeah. So. No, I think that makes a ton of sense. And each week we're going to gain more information through the combine and free agency and the draft and that kind of stuff. But no, it helps to get this early, and hopefully this will help you guys. We really appreciate you joining us. Again, check out all our articles and content on fanspeak.com. Be sure to like and subscribe before you get out of here. And we will keep this series rolling. We will have tight ends next, because that's much easier to cover, because wide receivers will be a 2 or 3 parter. There are so many elite and deep wide receiver class to talk about. But we're going to talk about it all. So stay tuned here on the FanSpeak Network, and we'll be talking about that soon. So for Steve, I'm Meg, and we will see you next time.